नेक्स्ट वी हैव स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंसेस। स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंसेस एक अलग कॉन्सेप्ट है, तो आई गेस ये हम चलें इसको कवर कर लेते हैं। स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंसेस का यहाँ पे क्या काम है? स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस एसेंशियल्स। स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस क्या होता है? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू गोइंग ऑन अ रोड, यू सी अ कैट ऑन अ zebra crossing but you're in a speed। आपको एकदम से आप क्या करेंगे? यू वुड अप्लाई ब्रेक्स। लेकिन जब वो आप ब्रेक्स अप्लाई करेंगे, हाउ डू यू नो कि ये गाड़ी कब रुकेगी, ये गाड़ी कितने डिस्टेंस पे रुकेगी, गाड़ी की स्पीड कितनी थी, हाउ फास्ट वाज योर कार, वाज इट एबल टू स्टॉप ऑन टाइम, डिड इट किल द कैट, डिड यू वर यू एबल टू स्टॉप बिफोर द टाइम। तो ये सारा आपका स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस है। स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस वो होता है द डिस्टेंस बिटवीन द मोमेंट वेयर यू अप्लाइड ब्रेक्स एंड द मोमेंट वेयर द कार स्टॉप। इन दो इवेंट्स के दरमियान जो डिस्टेंस है, कौन से दो इवेंट्स हैं? नंबर वन इवेंट आपका क्या है? व्हेन यू अप्लाई द ब्रेक्स, and number two, when the car stops. These are the two events, applying the brakes and the stopping of car. इसके दरमियान जो distance है, the distance between these two events is known as the stopping distance. So the stopping distance of a car is the distance it travels in the time it takes to stop in response to some emergency. The stopping distance consists of two parts. अब ये stopping distance किसी ना किसी emergency की response में ही होगा. And this stopping distance consists of two parts: the thinking distance and the braking distance. Thinking distance क्या है? The distance traveled in the time it takes the driver to react. कौन सा time? आपने एकदम से, you saw a person crossing the road and you're driving the car. There's a reaction time. Obviously, we are all materialistic machines. हमको robots तो है नहीं. We are not robots or any type of computer that we would be able to react quickly in such situations. हम क्या करेंगे? We would first think. We would think that in such a situation, what are we supposed to do? Where have we gotten in such a situation? We would first think. Then we would apply an action। ठीक है, जो हमारा वो जो thinking time होगा, that can be milliseconds, that can be seconds, लेकिन that time is known as the thinking distance, the distance traveled in the time it takes the driver to react। So that would be your thinking distance, the time where you actually took time to think कि मुझे apply करनी चाहिए brakes या नहीं करनी चाहिए। That would be your thinking distance। The second part is your braking distance। ये वो टाइम है, द डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल बाय द कार विल्स इट्स ब्रेकिंग। वो ब्रेक लगाते वक्त जब आपने ब्रेक को प्रेस किया, अब वो ब्रेक जितनी देर तक लग रही है, दैट वुड बी योर ब्रेकिंग डिस्टेंस। तो जो आपको स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस है, स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस क्या होगा? स्टॉपिंग डिस्टेंस वुड बी थिंकिंग डिस्टेंस प्लस द ब्रेकिंग डिस्टेंस। यू वर ड्राइविंग, ये आपकी कार है, यू सॉ अ पर्सन, you just saw a person. This is the amount of time that you took to think, and this would be the amount of time that you started to apply your brakes, और एक पॉइंट पे आके you stop the car right near the person। तो ये आपका thinking distance है, this is your braking distance, both combined made your stopping distance। तो stopping distance कौन सा distance है? You are driving a car, you saw a threat in an emergency, you saw someone crossing the road, that thinking time plus when you applied the brakes until the car stopped, ये पूरा आपके पास क्या होता है? This is known as your stopping distance। जैसे कि this is you saw a person standing over here, the moment you stopped the person, you detected the hazard, this is the amount of time। ये आपके पास वो time है that you took only for thinking। ये आपने time वो लिया for thinking। This is the time where you started to apply the brakes। ये वो है when the brakes were applied। This is your braking distance। And over here the car stopped right near the person। तो ये जो total था, this total thinking distance plus the braking distance gives you the answer and the value for the stopping distance of the car। जैसे this is the point you saw the danger, this is your reaction distance। किसको कहते हैं? thinking distance को। reaction distance and the thinking distance is the same thing। thinking में आपको लगे 3 seconds to queue to think, and then another 5 seconds for braking, and this is when you came to a stop। तो आपका stopping distance क्या हो जाएगा? 3 seconds plus 5 seconds, total stopping distance would be 8 seconds। So stopping distance is equal to thinking distance plus the braking distance। So if we look at the stopping distance in the form of a graph, इस graph में क्या नजर आ रहा है? Obviously we know that when we talk about a velocity time graph, velocity time graph में हमें क्या पता है? Two things. The gradient tells us the acceleration. The distance कहाँ से पता लगता है? By the area under the graph. ये हमने चैप्टर नंबर 1 के बिल्कुल फर्स्ट टॉपिक में पढ़ा था, in the part 1 of force and motion, that the area under the velocity time graph always gives us the distance. तो stopping distance हम अगर निकालें तो कैसे निकालेंगे? Thinking distance plus the braking distance. This total would give us the stopping distance. But if you only want to calculate the braking distance, just calculate the area of the triangle. If you are only told to calculate the thinking distance, or what we also call as the reaction distance or reaction time, we would only carry out the or calculate the area of the rectangle. लेकिन अगर आपको stopping distance कहना है, then you have to calculate the area of rectangle plus the area of the triangle. Then we have another thing, जो कि थोड़ी सी theoretical है, but you need to understand it. तो वो क्या चीज है theoretical? That is basically the factors that affect these stopping distances. What are the different factors? कुछ factors क्या हो सकते हैं जो आपकी distance को affect करें? Let's say a driver may be drunk, ठीक है, और उसका जो braking distance है और stopping distance है, that would be larger. Maybe the drunk driver has a larger thinking distance. उसका जो reaction time है, that is larger, which is hazardous. क्यों वो इतना hazardous क्यों है? It could result in a danger because a drunk driver might react late. उसको react करने में थोड़ा time लग जाए, and something bad can happen to the person crossing the road. या फिर let's say बारिश हो रही थी, let's say it was a rainy weather, again that can affect because the roads are slippery. इसके अलावा क्या हो सकता है? What if there's ice on the road? आपका जो braking distance है वो ज्यादा हो जाएगा. What if the driver is very professional? तो क्या आपका braking distance बहुत कम भी हो सकता है. Let's say the quality of tires, quality of जो टायर होंगे गाड़ी के, that can also affect the stopping distances. So the main factor affecting the stopping distance of a car is its speed. सबसे जो main factor है वो आपका क्या होता है? That is your speed. Obviously the speed of the car can determine the stopping distance. कि आपका stopping distance कम होगा या ज़्यादा होगा. Obviously when we talk about two cars, car A having a speed of 50, car B having a speed of 120. Which of these would be stopping fast? इनमें से stopping distance किसका कम होगा? Obviously the one which has a lower speed. लेकिन इसका stopping distance ज़्यादा होगा because it was at a higher speed, and in order for it to come to zero speed, it would take some more time. It would take a longer distance. लेकिन जो car पहले से at a lesser speed पे travel कर रही है, that would be stopping much more quickly than the car which was at a higher speed. So there are a number of other things, however, that can affect the stopping distance by either increasing the thinking distance or the braking distance. तो वो कौन से बाकी factors हैं that affect your thinking distance and your braking distance? एक तो बहुत main जो हमने पढ़ लिया वो है speed. Speed ज़्यादा होगी तो stopping distance भी ज़्यादा होगा. If speed is lesser, stopping distance would also be less. For example, thinking distance को कौन कौन सी चीजें affect करती हैं? Thinking distance कौन सा? The time you need to react, the distance it took for you to react, the distance the car traveled while you were only thinking that how do I have to respond in that emergency situation. तो thinking distance को जो पहली चीज affect करेगी, that would be intoxication. That can be consumption of alcohol or drugs, because अगर वो driver drunk है, if the driver of the car, the person driving the car, any person, he or she has taken any drugs, जाहिर सी बात है she wouldn't be in her senses, क्योंकि जो आपकी senses हैं, your thinking, your brain, it is all affected by intake of alcohol or drugs. तो जाहिर सी बात है उस intoxication की वजह से the person might take some time to think that how do I have to react in such a situation. तो उसका जो thinking distance है, the thinking distance would increase, and this is bad. The thinking distance should always be less. आपका less reaction time होगा, only then you can respond the best at such emergency situations. Number two can be distractions. What, for example, the driver was using a mobile phone. अगर मोबाइल फोन यूज कर रहा है, अगेन उसका थिंकिंग डिस्टेंस ज्यादा होगा, उसका ध्यान एकदम से पड़ेगा, ओहो ये मैं क्या कर रहा था, वो एकदम फोन अंदर रखेगा, देन ही वुड अप्लाई दी brakes, because mobile phone is one of the distraction that can affect your thinking distance. Your mind would be diverted somewhere else, and then again you have to bring your mind quickly and respond to the emergency situation rather than the phone. तो आपको एकदम से अपनी attention divert करनी पड़ेगी, and in diverting that attention from a mobile phone to the road would take some time, some seconds. तो वो आपके जो seconds हैं वो increase हो जाएंगे, hence increasing the thinking distance and the stopping distance as well. Number 3 is your tiredness. The driver can be tired. What if he is driving for the past 6 hours? That is why whenever we go on long highways or motorways, there are certain billboards that say one thing: take rest. Qiyam tayam kar le. Rest here. Rest area available. Why? Because the drivers who are driving, जैसे कि truck drivers हैं, they usually take breaks. क्यों? They are driving. They need sleep. They have to complete their sleep because it's very important. As it's not only better that you know how to drive a car, it is better that you should also know that how to react and respond in emergency situations. इसीलिए ये important है कि आपको जो tiredness factor हो वो present नहीं होना चाहिए. You shouldn't be tired. So the reaction time increases when the driver is tired. Braking distance को क्या क्या चीजें affect करती हैं? This is very important. That what is going to affect your brakes? इसके ऊपर हम गाड़ी की systematically बात करते हैं. Brakes randomly तो हमने बात कर ली human की. अगर हम systematically बात करें, the main factor can also be the car itself, the brake itself. There can be a systematic fault or a fault in the surrounding. We are not talking about the driver over here. Thinking distance के अंदर we always talk about the driver. We talk about the person responsible. We are talking about the driver. लेकिन braking distance के अंदर we are talking about the car, the environment, the surroundings. So the first factor that affects the braking distance can be the condition of the vehicle. The vehicle might have old tires, worn out tires, or the vehicle might have poor brakes. अगर वो brake quality is not up to the mark, then obviously the braking distance would also increase. फिर क्या है? The condition of the road and weather. What if the road is icy? And what if the road is wet? Obviously जब icy और wet road होती है, there would be lesser friction. आपके पास frictional force नहीं, क्योंकि एक बहुत important बात मैं आपको बताऊं, frictional force हमेशा good quality road पे act करती है. Friction force helps in a good way. वो किस तरह help करती है? By stopping the car. Opposite force provide करती है ना friction, और वो opposite force आपकी गाड़ी को रोकती है. But what if the road is icy? स्नोफॉल के बाद, रेनी वेदर के बाद वो रोड वेट हुई है, obviously the car is going to drift. वो कार आपकी skid कर जाएगी. So of course the condition of the road and the weather, whether it's snowing, raining, वो आपका affect करता है. The mass of the vehicle, ये बहुत important है. Mass of the vehicle also. क्यों? A heavy vehicle such as a truck, एक हैवी व्हीकल है जैसे कि ट्रक है, इट टेक्स लॉन्गर टू स्टॉप. कोई ट्रक होगा उसको ज्यादा टाइम लगेगा रुकने में rather than a lighter bike. अगर मोटर बाइक है तो वो आराम से रुक जाएगी because the mass of a motor bike is very less, but the mass of a truck, a tank, कोई बस जा रही है अगर एक हाई स्पीड पे तो उसको रोकने के लिए बहुत ज्यादा फोर्स चाहिए होगी. तो obviously the mass of the vehicle, a heavy vehicle takes longer to stop. So these were some of the factors that affect the thinking distance and the braking distance. और जब ये दोनों distance affect हो जाएंगे, combined would affect the stopping distance of the car in the current scenario.